She wore my diamond head veil on her head, holding the bellflower used on my wedding day. The hem of her skirt spread across the entire bed, like a humiliation meticulously arranged by someone. Gu Qing'an stood by the bed, half crouching to straighten the hem of her skirt. Hearing the sound of the door opening, he turned to see me, and his first reaction wasn't to stand up or explain, but to frown. "Why did you come back early?" I stood at the door for 3 seconds. Even forgot to put down the suitcase in my hand. I came back from a business trip in Suzhou. Didn't even go back to the high-speed rail station. Directly took the drawings and fabrics home. Just wanted to give him a surprise. The one who got surprised turned out to be myself. Zhou Qinnan looked up at me. Her eyes flickered with alarm at first, but then softened quickly. "South Branch. Don't misunderstand. I just... Take it off." I interrupted her. My voice not loud, but the room fell silent instantly. Qiao Xinyan bit her lip, her fingers unconsciously tightening the lace at the chest of the wedding dress. Her eyes turning red the moment she felt like it. "I'm sorry. I didn't know you'd mind this much. Qing'an said you don't wear this wedding dress usually either. It's just sitting there." I just wanted to try it on. I looked at her, and suddenly found it ridiculous. Trying on a wedding dress, all the way to my wedding bed. Gu Qing'an stood up, his tone a bit impatient. "Jiang Nanji, don't be so sarcastic the moment you come back. Jin Yan's wedding next month has been cancelled. She's not doing well. She just borrowed it to wear and find a feel for it." Find a feel. I finally put down the suitcase in my hand, the wheels hitting the doorframe with a dull sound. "Gu Qing'an, do you want to hear what you're saying?" His brow furrowed even tighter. "Is that necessary? Just one wedding dress. Just one wedding dress." These 5 characters are like a dull knife, slowly carving into my heart. That wedding dress wasn't bought. It was sewn by me, one stitch at a time. From the design sketches, to selecting the materials, to the 3D draping. It was all done by my own hands. The last row of hidden embroidery on the skirt was the last stitch my mother stitched for me while lying on her sick bed. At that time, her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't hold the needle steady. Yet she still insisted on hiding the thread end neatly. She said, "A girl in her life doesn't necessarily have to marry into great splendor, but the wedding dress must be cherished, because what is stitched into it are all the heart a woman is willing to entrust." Before my mother passed away, she touched that wedding dress and said one sentence. "South Branch, if anyone makes you cry while taking off this wedding dress, you should make them leave." Gu Qing'an knew very well. He knows what this wedding dress means to me. He also knows I never let anyone touch it. But now, he brings Qiao Xinyan into my bedroom, making her wear the wedding dress. Lying on my bed, I stare at him and ask, word by word, "Did you make her wear it?" His expression flickered slightly, avoiding my gaze. "She's in a bad mood. I just wanted to cheer her up." "So you used my things to cheer her up?" "Jiang Nanji, don't be so petty." I looked at his face that was no longer familiar, and suddenly felt a very absurd sense. It turns out that people really can, in an instant, not recognize the man they loved for 7 years. Qiao Xinyan saw the wrong atmosphere, quickly supporting himself to sit up. The headscarf slid down his shoulder, looking at me gently and weakly. "Nanji, it's all my fault. I just love this wedding dress too much. Don't argue with Qing'an. He's just worried I might do something rash after being engaged to someone else recently. So he asked me to come here to relax." She paused, her voice softer. "You can rest assured. There's nothing between me and Qing'an." It would have been better if she hadn't mentioned it, but as soon as she said the 3 words "brother Qing'an," my stomach started churning. Gu Qing'an rarely called me that before. He said it was too cloying. But once Qiao Xinyan came back, even his way of addressing me seemed particularly indulgent. I slowly walked over and reached out to pick up the phone on the bed. The screen was still on, showing the camera interface. They were just taking a photo, using my wedding dress, my wedding bed, my room, to recreate the wedding photos she never got to take for his moonlight. I raised my phone and pressed the shutter button against Qiao Xinyan. Crack. Gu Qing'an's expression changed, and he reached out to snatch it. "What are you doing?" I stepped back, dodged him, and glanced at the photo. What irony! In the lens, Qiao Xinyan, wearing my Wunio-fakened wedding dress, lay on the bed I slept in for 3 years after my wedding, with a pale face and tears in his eyes, like a princess who had her wish fulfilled. And like a villain who had wandered in by mistake, I looked up at Gu Cheng'an. Leave evidence. It'll be useful when you file for divorce. His face fell sharply. Jiang Nanji, don't call me. I threw the phone back onto the bed, pointing at Xiao Xinyan. Right now. Right away. Take off the wedding dress. Xiao Xinyan trembled all over, as if startled by me, looking at Gu Cheng'an for help. Gu Cheng'an stepped forward, putting her behind him, his voice becoming colder. She's not in good condition right now. Why do you insist on pushing her? I couldn't help but laugh in anger. She's not in good condition. What does that have to do with me? Gu Cheng'an, if the person lying here today was a man, could you still tell me he's heartbroken and just borrowing my bed to sleep? Gu Cheng'an's lips were pressed tightly together. Don't speak so crudely. Crudely. I stared at him. You've already done ugly things. What's left to fear from others speaking crudely? Xiao Xinyan finally broke down and cried. Nanji, I really didn't mean to provoke you. I just envy you. Cheng'an always says you're the best at making wedding dresses in the world. I saw this dress. I really love it. I went overboard. I'll take it off right now. As she said this, she fumbled to unfasten the belt at the back, her fingertips deliberately trembling. Trembling more and more until she couldn't undo it. Tears dropping tap tap tap. Gu Cheng'an grabbed her hand. Don't move. I'll handle it. After saying that, he really turned around to undo her binding straps. In that instant, the last bit of warmth in my heart completely cooled off. I didn't cry, nor did I make a scene. I just stood before them, quietly watching my husband manually unfasten my wedding dress for another woman. Xiao Xinyan turned her back, revealing a large expanse of pale back. Gu Cheng'an's hand fell on the sash, a movement very light, as if handling something fragile. He once did this for me too, to unfasten my wedding dress. On our wedding night. That night, he held me from behind, his nose touching my ear, whispering, Jiang Nanji, this wedding dress is beautiful, but you are more beautiful. I believed it. So now, I feel like I was foolish as a joke back then. The wedding dress is fading a little by little. I stared at the hem, and indeed at the position of the left waistline. I saw a noticeable foundation print. The edge of the skirt fabric had also hooked out 2 threads. I gasped, my heart feeling as if it were being gripped. Gu Cheng'an took off her veil for her, and when she looked up, her eyes met mine. Perhaps he finally noticed something was wrong with my expression. He paused for a moment, and his tone was rare for him to soften a bit. Nanji, Xinnan didn't mean to. If it gets dirty, I'll send it for cleaning. If it gets damaged, I'll have it repaired. I looked at him and asked slowly, do you know why this wedding dress is never sent for cleaning? He was taken aback. Because the dark embroidery around the waistline was the last time my mother held a needle before she passed away. That piece of fabric can't get wet, can't be heavily ironed. If it gets damaged, it's damaged. And it can't be repaired. I looked at the 2 lines that had been hooked out, and suddenly laughed lightly. But you still let her wear it. Gu Cheng'an's expression froze. Xiao Xinyan seemed to realize the severity of the situation only at this moment. Looking at me with red eyes. Nanji, I really don't know. You know. I looked up at her, my voice unnervingly calm. When you were in university, you came to my studio, while my mom was sewing this skirt hem. You were sitting beside me eating grapes. The color in her face faded bit by bit. Gu Cheng'an frowned. Xinyan, do you know? Xiao Xinyan's lips trembled, and she couldn't speak for a long time. At that moment, I understood everything. She didn't do it unintentionally. She did it on purpose. Wearing my wedding dress on purpose. Lying in my bed on purpose. Using the most disgusting way possible to test how much weight she holds in Gu Cheng'an's heart. And Gu Cheng'an, knowing she was crossing boundaries, still indulged her. I bent down and tore the wedding dress off Xiao Jinan. She stumbled forward as I led her, Gu Cheng instinctively supporting her, then turned and sharply reprimanded me. Jiang Nanji, are you crazy? Yes. I'm crazy. Holding the wedding dress, I took 2 steps back, looking at them, and suddenly felt that this scene was so perfect. One plays the weak. One plays the deep affection. Only I look like a superfluous joke standing in the middle. You continue. I hugged the wedding dress in my arms. This room, this bed, this man. Starting today, whoever loves who gets it. Gu Cheng'an's expression changed drastically. What do you mean? I looked at him, my voice soft. Gu Cheng'an, we are getting divorced. The words hung in the air, and an instant silence fell over the room. Zhao Xinyan froze for a moment, then a noticeable glint flashed in her eyes. But she reacted quickly, grabbing Gu Cheng'an's sleeve, trembling with panic. Cheng'an, you need to explain quickly, don't let Nanji misunderstand. If she really divorces me because of you, I won't be at peace for the rest of my life. Gu Cheng'an didn't look at her. Just stared at me. Have you had enough of this? Me, you know very well that Chihiro is emotionally unstable right now. So what? I laughed. Just because she's emotionally unstable, I have to lend her the wedding dress. Let her use the marital bed. And maybe even lend her the husband to calm her down. Jiang Nanji, Gu Cheng'an. I called him by name for the first time. Did you think I would never turn on you? His Adam's apple bobbed as if he wanted to say something, but I didn't give him the chance. Holding the wedding dress and turning to leave. Before leaving the bedroom, I glanced back at the bed. The sheets were creased, and the pillow still had Zhou Zhenyan's lipstick stain on it. My stomach churned, and I slammed the master bedroom door shut. The door frame shook, as if it were the first stroke of a funeral bell for this marriage. I took the wedding dress to the closet. As soon as I laid the dress flat on the table, my heart sank heavily. The foundation mark on the side of my waist is darker than I imagined. And the silk fabric has also been creased into a small patch of extremely fine cracks by the high heels. The worst part is, there's actually an extra drop of red wine stain near the lining of the skirt. I stared at the red spot for a full half-minute. Suddenly, scenes from my wedding day flashed before my eyes. That night at the toast, Gu Cheng'an was afraid my white silk would get dirty, so he specifically kept me close to his side, blocking cup after cup for me. He lowered his head to hold up my skirt hem at the time, saying, "Walk slower. Don't step in dirt." I'd heart it. Turns out he wasn't unable to heart either. Just that his hearting was so cheap enough to be given to anyone he is reluctant to part with. Footsteps came from behind. Gu Cheng'an stood at the door, looking at the wedding dress in my hand. His brows furrowed tightly. Ji Nian wasn't intentional just now. I didn't turn back. Did you come just to apologize for her? I'm here to explain. All right, explain. He was silent for 2 seconds, as if weighing his words. Izumi got engaged recently, but her mental state hasn't been good. She was supposed to shoot a wedding trailer next week, but now the project is ruined. She came over for dinner today, saw this wedding dress, and said she really liked it, wanted to try it on. I was afraid she might do something rash, so I agreed. Afraid she might do something rash, I repeated, then suddenly laughed. Gu Cheng'an, you really do know how to sympathize with people. South Branch, I know this crosses the line, but it's not as serious as you think. What do you consider serious? He looked at me, as if not quite understanding why I was making such a big reaction. Just tried on some clothes. I finally turned around. She wasn't wearing clothes. That's my wedding dress. The last thing my mom stitched for me before she passed away. And it's the memory you promised to keep for me my whole life. You took it to comfort her, and said you were just trying on the dress. Gu Cheng'an's expression flickered with a moment of unease. He still frowned and said, I admit I didn't think things through. But she's already had enough. Must you insist on holding on to this at this moment? I stared at him for a long time. So long that a hint of impatience flickered in his eyes. I suddenly didn't want to argue anymore, fighting over it. It seems like they're just forcing a biased person to admit their bias. But being biased is something that doesn't need to be admitted in the first place. It was already written in every choice. Gu Cheng'an, I said, my voice flat. Do you know what's most disgusting? His brows furrowed slightly. It wasn't Xiao Xinyan deliberately upsetting me. You knew she was deliberately upsetting me. Yet you still thought I should let her have her way. Gu Cheng'an's expression faltered. I put the wedding dress back into the dust bag and slowly zipped it up. Go out. South Branch. I don't want to see you right now. Gu Cheng'an stood still at the door, perhaps seeing me too calm. He felt a bit uneasy, and whispered, Did you just say divorce was a joke? I paused for a moment, then looked up at him. No, I'm serious. That night, I didn't go back to the master bedroom. I took the wedding dress to the guest room, and as soon as I locked the door, my phone rang. It was my best friend Qin Sang. Baby, your high-speed train isn't supposed to arrive at 5. Right. Have you come home? I leaned against the doorframe. My throat so blocked I could only groan after a while. Qin Sang immediately noticed something was wrong. What's wrong with your voice? Did Gu Qingyan bully you? I was silent for a few seconds. Then said, Qiao Xinyan is wearing my wedding dress and lying in my bed. The other end of the phone was completely silent for 3 full seconds. Then, a string of curses exploded. I swear. Where are you? Jiang Nanji. I'm coming right over. Don't come. I closed my eyes. Exhausted. My mind is really chaotic right now. What's chaotic about it? It's perfectly clear. Your husband is crazy. And his white moon is even more crazy. How is this trying on a wedding dress? She's peeing on your face. She always speaks crudely. But this time, her crudeness is especially precise. I wanted to laugh a bit. But I couldn't. Qin Sang took a deep breath from that side. You listen to me. This can't just go away like this. Qiao Xinyan dared to do this, showing she's sure Gu Qingyan will protect her. If you endure it now, she can later sleep right next to your husband in your pajamas. I looked at the dustproof bag in my arms and whispered, I filed for divorce. Qin Sang was silent for a second. Then the tone turned serious. Is this really it? Yes. All right, she said firmly. Don't do this alone. Come to my law firm tomorrow morning. I'll go through your assets, shares, trademarks, copyrights, one by one. Jiang Nanji, you've gone crazy making wedding dresses. If someone pokes you with a needle, you can't just sew yourself with thread. My nose suddenly got emotional, and I mumbled a soft MHM. After hanging up the phone, I sat by the bed in the guest room, staring at the wedding dress all night. At 2 a.m. a very light knock came from outside. Gu Qingyan called me at the door. Nanji, open the door. Let's talk. I didn't answer. He knocked twice more. You should at least eat first. Listening to his lowered voice, I only felt it was ironic. This person has always been decent. Even when he did something wrong, he had to pretend to be willing to solve the problem. But he never understood that some things aren't just about bringing a bowl of food, lowering your voice a bit, and then it's over. I didn't pay attention to him. After a long time, the noise outside finally stopped. But before I could even breathe a sigh of relief, I heard a very faint sob coming from the living room. It was Qiao Xinyan. She cried suppressedly, intermittently, as if she could not catch her breath at any moment. Then I heard Gu Qingyan hurrying out of the master bedroom. Xinyan, what's wrong? Did I annoy Nanji? Gu Qingyan, I really didn't mean to. I just saw that wedding dress and suddenly felt envious. I thought, maybe I could also wear a wedding dress and get married. She choked up with tears. Gu Qingyan's voice also softened. It's not your fault. It's my fault for not handling it well. What about Nanji? What will I do if she really divorces you? No, Gu Qingyan whispered. She's just in a temper. It'll be fine in a couple of days. I sat behind the door, listening to every word they said, my palms slowly forming several crescent-shaped marks. It turns out in his mind, my divorce was just out of anger. It turns out he was so certain that I couldn't leave him. That's also true. We've known each other for 7 years. Married for 3. From the hardest times of his startup to when the company got on track. I almost went through every difficult step with him. He needed funding. I used the studio's cash flow to help him manage. He needed resources. I took my work with him to endure the tough situations. His stomach wasn't good. I cooked porridge for him at 3 in the morning. My mother was hospitalized, and I stayed to take care of her for half a month. Reviewing blueprints during the day and guarding the bedside at night, I was so steady. For so long. Like a perfect homemaker who never made mistakes. That's why he forgot. I could also feel pain. I could also get angry. And I could also leave. Early the next morning, when I opened the guest room door, Qiao Xinyan was already gone from the living room. Gu Qingyan sat at the dining table, with a bowl of congee and a fried egg in front of him. When he saw me come out, he seemed to sigh in relief, stood up and said, "Come have something to eat." I didn't move. Where is Qiao Xinyan? She wasn't in a good mood last night, so I had the driver take her back first. I made a sound of understanding. Take her back to her own place. Or to the apartment you rented for her. Gu Qingyan's expression froze. I looked at him, and my last bit of hope vanished. Yesterday, I still thought that perhaps Qiao Xinyan had just been coming back more often lately. Perhaps the things I don't know aren't as much as I think. But now it seems that there had already been an apartment. He didn't even plan to tell me. You're checking me. He stared at me, his expression darkening. I don't need to check. I forced a smile. You show everything when you're nervous. Gu Cheng'en was silent for a moment, then admitted it. I have an apartment. After Tomoko returned to Japan, she had nowhere to stay, so I rented it for her. Help. I looked at him. What kind of help is that? Gu Cheng'en, is the money you're using your own money, or our marital assets? He frowned. Do you have to say it like this right now? What should I say then? I walked to the dining table, my gaze falling on the bowl of congee, and suddenly remembered last night how they were in the living room, one crying and the other comforting, while I sat in the guest room holding the tattered wedding dress until dawn. I lifted my hand, picked up the bowl of congee, and directly poured it into the trash bin. Gu Cheng'en's expression turned cold instantly. Jiang Nanji, don't cook for me. I put the empty bowl back on the table, the ceramic bottom making a crisp sound. What you make? It disgusts me. He took a deep breath, as if suppressing a fire. Fine. You can be angry, but the company's anniversary show is next week. You can't be in a mood now. Kinnan originally agreed to be the closing model for our season, but there was an emergency. I just wanted to try her out yesterday. I looked at him, and suddenly felt like laughing. By this time, what came to his mind first was still the anniversary show. So, why did you let her wear my wedding dress? For the company. It's not entirely about that. He paused. That wedding dress does suit her temperament. After all, hearing this, I felt even dirty just looking at him again. Suit her. Then do it for her. Don't touch me. A hint of displeasure flashed in Gu Cheng'en's eyes. Jiang Nanji, don't you think you're being unreasonable right now? Unreasonable? I nodded. Fine. Then I'll be even more unreasonable. I took out my phone and, in front of him, dialed Qin Sang's number. Send the divorce agreement to my email. Gu Cheng'en's expression changed completely. Are you serious? What do you think? Jiang Nanji. Don't forget, Jixiang isn't just yours anymore. Jixiang is the bridal studio left by my mother, and also the high-end bridal brand that my partner and I have built together in these past few years. He handles operations and financing, while I handle design and patterns. Everyone says we were born to be partners. The ones who understand each other best and are most suited for each other. Now think about it. It's really ironic. I certainly remember. I looked at him, my tone calm to the point of cruelty. So I'll count your misappropriating marital assets, misappropriation of corporate resources and unauthorized use of my personal works altogether. Gu Cheng'en's expression changed. What do you mean? Literal meaning. I turned back to my room. I said, Gu Cheng'en, don't always treat me like your wife. I am Jiang Nanji first, then the Mrs. Gu. If you really push me to the limit, I'll show you that I can make a wedding dress, and I can also tear one apart. An hour later, I left that house with my suitcase. Before leaving, I emptied all the things that belonged to me in the master bedroom. The moon lamp I picked from the bedside table. Take it away. The pearl comb left by my mother on the vanity table. Take it away. The satin high heels I wore at the wedding in the closet. Take it away. Finally, I stood by the bed, looking down at the wedding bed with new sheets. Gu Cheng'en thought that if he changed the bed sheets, the matter would be as if it had never happened. But he didn't know that some dirt wasn't left on the fabric. It was left in people's hearts. I looked for 2 seconds, then turned and left. In the living room, Gu Cheng'en's mother, Chen Yufan, was just entering. She was holding an insulated bucket in her hand. Seeing me dragging a box, she paused for a moment, then frowned. What are you up to so early? I didn't bother to answer her and continued walking out. She, however, placed the thermos on the shoe rack and hurried a few steps to stop me. I just heard Cheng'en say, "It's just about a wedding dress. Why did you have to run away from home?" I stopped and looked at her. "Aunt, that's my wedding dress. What happened to the wedding dress?" "It's not an antique." She said it as if nothing was wrong. That poor kid Nishina got dumped by her boyfriend before the wedding. How is trying it on any different? You're a proper wife. Why can't you be a bit more open-minded? That's better than anything, right? I listened quietly until she finished, then suddenly laughed. You know that was my wedding dress. And you know I'm a proper wife. Then why do you think it's more appropriate for your son to let the white moonlight wear my wedding dress and lie in my marital bed? Who do you think should be more open-minded? Chen Yufan's expression darkened. Why do you have to speak so harshly? Janenai and Cheng'an grew up together since childhood. Their bond is different. How is it wrong for him to take care of her? Grew up together since childhood. Their bond is different. Originally, in my mother-in-law's eyes, this old bond could actually be more important than me, the legitimate wife. Looking at her, for the first time, I thought there must be a reason why this family could stick together. Alright, I nodded. Since the bond is different, then let the person with the different bond live with your son. As for the matter with Shishang, I will have the lawyer contact them. I was dragging my suitcase towards the door. Chen Yufan, behind me, raised her voice in anger. Jiang Nanji, you're a face without shame. In these years, Cheng'an has been good enough to you. You, who make wedding dresses, wouldn't have had it today if you hadn't married him. These words pricked my ears like needles. I turned back, looking at her face up high, and spoke word by word. Aunt, you might be mistaken. It wasn't Gu Cheng'an who gave me today. It was me, who gave Gu Cheng'an a day worth showing off. After speaking, I didn't stay any longer. Pushing the door and walking out, the hallway was very breezy, making my eyes feel gritty. I didn't turn back. Not a single step. When I arrived at Qin Sang Law Firm, I took the wedding dress out of the dust bag and laid it flat on the long table in her office. Qin Sang's expression turned black upon seeing the foundation print and the damaged lace. It was deliberate. I know. Gu Cheng'an was protecting her. Okay. Qin Sang cursed. Then immediately had the assistant get the gloves and camera. First secure the evidence. Take full shots of the wedding dress details, clearly capturing stains, outlines. And where? Do you have photos from the master bedroom scene? Yes. I sent her the photo I took last night. Xiao Xinyan is lying on the bed in her wedding dress. Gu Cheng'an standing beside her. His gaze so gentle it could drip water. Qin Sang finished reading and sneered. This picture can be framed directly and hung on Gu Cheng'an's forehead. She looked up at me. The most important thing for you now is to decide. How far has the divorce gone? Is it just a breakup? Or are you tearing the company apart too? I looked at the wedding dress on the table and reached out to touch the tattered lace. After a long time, I finally spoke. Break it up. Then don't be soft-hearted. Qin Sang pushed a share structure diagram in front of me. 45% under your name. 35% for Gu Cheng'an. And the rest are for investors and the employee pool. It sounds like you have the advantage. But the problem is you've been too soft-hearted these years, granting the design copyright exclusively to the company for a long time. And many contracts aren't binding enough. If Gu Cheng'an really wants to drag this out, you won't be easily in the short term either. Then let's drag it out. Besides, there are also jointly owned assets. She picked up a pen and circled something on the paper. Let's not mention the house, car, or funds for now. The most troublesome thing is the company's external expenditures in the past year. You mentioned Xiao Xinyan's apartment yesterday. I suggest you check the transaction records first. If Gu Cheng'an is using company resources or the joint account to subsidize her, this would be much simpler. I nodded. Check. Additionally, Qin Sang paused and looked at me. You need to be mentally prepared. What? He might have been with Xiao Xinyan for more than a day or two. I fell silent. Actually, even without Qin Sang saying it, I already had a clue. Xiao Xinyan is Gu Cheng'an's white moonlight. To be precise, it was the person he most wanted to grasp during his youth but failed to do so. I was a university roommate with Xiao Xinyan. Back then she was beautiful, delicate, and liked being surrounded and adored by everyone. Gu Cheng'an pursued her for 2 years, buying her breakfast, taking the window seat in the back row of the classroom for her, and giving her umbrellas while risking getting soaked in the rain. Kanako Shinanom didn't agree. She kept dangling him, enjoying his kindness, but never gave him a title. Her sudden departure abroad during their graduation year, without even saying goodbye, Gu Cheng'an stayed out in the rain downstairs in the dormitory for the entire night. And the next day he had a high fever of 40 degrees. I met Gu Cheng'an back then. It wasn't out of sympathy for him, but because he was starting a business back then and needed wedding supply chain resources. My mother's workshop was actually looking to transition. We started from collaboration and gradually grew closer. On the day he proposed to me, he held my hand and said, "What's past is past. I'll only recognize you from now on." I believed him. So when we got married, I didn't even ask Xiao Xinyan a single word. I thought the old person was just an old person. Only now do I understand that some people haven't passed away. They've just been hidden, placed inside a very thin glass dome. They are not touched on a daily basis. Appearing stable. Once back, it would be easy to make a man lose his composure. At 3 in the afternoon, Qin Sang found the first batch of transactions. When she showed me her computer, my eyelids didn't even twitch. Since Qiao Jinyan returned, Gu Cheng'en has gradually transferred a total of 470,000 to her. The items include rental, adjustment, medicine, deposit, and shooting compensation. The largest amount is 200,000. The note says, wedding breach of contract. Qin Sang stared at the screen for a long while before cursing out loud. Wow, this isn't moonlight. It's the living ancestor your husband is feeding. I looked at the string of numbers, feeling a tightness in my chest. The most ironic part is, 3 months ago when I wanted to buy a new French embroidery machine, Gu Cheng'en told me the cash flow was tight and to wait. It turns out it wasn't the company that was short of money. His money has more important places to spend. Keep investigating. My voice was a bit hoarse. Investigate the company's reimbursement. Qin Sang nodded, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Half an hour later, the second cut came. The cost of Qiao Jinyan's visit to a psychologist last month was listed under the company's client reception expenses. Her flight and hotel expenses for a trip to Hainan to relax were listed under market research. The termination fee for her commercial shoot after the divorce was listed under brand public relations maintenance. Qin Sang was gasping in shock. Gu Cheng'en is really bold. I didn't say anything. Just printed out those few pages of reports one by one. The paper rustled as it came out of the printer, like tearing open my 3 years of marriage. Inch by inch. Qin Sang looked at my increasingly pale face and spoke cautiously. Are you still okay? Fine. I organized the documents and put them into a file folder. Since he's willing to spend, I'll let him pay back both principal and interest. When I came back to the temporary rented apartment in the evening, I had just finished my shower and saw a trending news notification pop up on my phone. Exquisite wedding dress brand Shakura's mysterious large-scale photo shoot exposed. Suspected new news appearing. My heart sank, and I clicked on it. The first picture made my fingertips feel cold. The photo has a great atmosphere. The main subject doesn't show their face directly, only capturing half of the jawline and collarbone. The wedding dress on her is lit softly like a layer of mist, but others wouldn't recognize it. I would. That was my wedding dress. The dark embroidery around the waist. A unique piece in the world. The comments section has gone crazy. This is the closing act of the annual show this year by Xi. Isn't it amazing? This model's aura is different from before. A bit like a moonlight romance. I heard the owner of Zhishang is also a designer. Could this be her herself? Don't cause trouble upstairs. The owner hasn't been seen in ages. This must be a newcomer. I stared at that picture, breathing heavily. I just moved out from home last night. Tonight, my wedding dress became the hot search preview of Zhishang. It doesn't take a genius to know who did it. I directly dialed Gu Cheng'en's number. It rang twice. Then someone answered. Did you see the trending search? His voice was surprisingly calm. Gu Cheng'en, did you use my wedding dress for promotion? It's just a mood board to test the market reaction. Who gave you the right? Nanji. He sounded very tired. Don't mix business with personal matters. The annual show on the branches is approaching. Qiao Jinyan's temperament matches this wedding dress well. It's a good idea to do some promotion for the brand. I stood by the window, my fingertips tightening little by little. That's my wedding dress. Not a company sample. It's been kept at home all along. Kept at home means it's yours now. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. Then, Gu Cheng'en whispered. Jin Yan is currently in the spotlight. Don't target her anymore. I burst out laughing immediately. Am I targeting her? Gu Cheng'en, you had her wear my wedding dress, sleep in my wedding bed, spend my money, use my work to make it a trending topic. And now you tell me it's me targeting her. His voice also turned cold. Jiang Nanji, I've already been lenient enough with you. Then don't be lenient. I'm saying it word by word. Starting now, all wedding photos must be taken down. Issue a public apology. Stop all financial support for Qiao Jinyan. Or else I'll send you a lawyer's letter tomorrow. You dare. You can try it. I dare not. I hung up the phone. 10 minutes later, I asked Qin Sang's law firm to send a formal notice directly to Shigeo. demanding them to stop unauthorized use of my personal wedding dress designs and preserve relevant infringement evidence. 2 hours later, the trending photos were deleted, but it was too late to delete. Those who were supposed to see, did see, early the next morning. As soon as I arrived at the studio, I saw several media outlets blocking the entrance. The flashlights went off, and I knew something was wrong. Ms. Jiang, is the wedding dress on the trending list last night your private wedding dress? I heard online that you and Mr. Gu are breaking up. Is it true? What is the relationship between Xiao Xinyan and Mr. Gu? I didn't stop. The security guards blocked the people. Qin Sang got out of the car and directly escorted me into the elevator. The moment the elevator door closed, her face was awful. Someone's setting the tone. I know. I looked at the continuously popping up spy videos on my phone and the captions below them. My tone is cold as ice. This is trying to force me to step forward. Should I respond? Responding. I looked at the words ex-lover returns. Newcomer takes over on the screen and couldn't help but feel a bit amused. If they want to see a spectacle, let's give them one. That noon, I had the official account of my studio post a statement. Only 3 sentences. The hot search wedding dress is a personal work of mine. Without permission, no one has the right to try it on, take photos, or spread it. I have retained lawyers to handle related infringement and marital disputes. Also, the bed is the same. The 3rd sentence came out, and the entire internet exploded completely. Comments instantly reached 10,000 plus. The bed is the same too. Oh my god. This amount of information. So the white moon doesn't just wear a wedding dress, but also sleeps in the wedding bed. Her statement is too harsh. 4 words made me imagine 10,000 words of melodrama. Who understands? This kind of not throwing a tantrum and not explaining. Directly switching to legal mode makes a primary wife so satisfying. An hour after the statement was made, Gu Qing'an rushed into my studio. He had never been this out of control before. His shirt cuffs rolled up, his eyes full of suppressed anger. Who made you send that statement? I was adjusting the waistline of a mermaid dress in front of the sewing machine, without even lifting my head. I myself. Do you have any idea what kind of trouble you'll get Chihiro into with this? I put down the scissors and finally looked up at him. She should. Gu Qing'an was so angry that his chest was trembling. Can't you be a bit less harsh? Harsh. I looked at him and said calmly, Gu Qing'an, are you mistaken? The one being criticized isn't my statement, but her own wedding dress going viral. It's your implicit acceptance that she uses my things to play pitiful. She didn't sleep all night yesterday, and the internet is calling her a mistress. Isn't she? She's not. Gu Qing'an almost gritted his teeth. She and I are as clean as snow. I stared at him for 2 seconds, then suddenly laughed. A man, if he's truly clean with a woman, he wouldn't rent an apartment for her. He wouldn't pay the Breachofpromise fine for her engagement. He wouldn't use his wife's wedding dress to fulfill her dream. And he definitely wouldn't worry about her being scolded the moment she asks for a divorce. Gu Qing'an, not straying from the body doesn't mean the person isn't rotten. He was so angry with me that his face turned purple, and it took him a long time to stammer out. How did you become like this now? What kind? Like a porcupine, pricking everyone. I was wrong. I looked at him. My voice soft. I just don't want to be that Jiang Nanji anymore who you used to gain face. He stood there, the anger on his face slowly fading, replaced by a confusion I rarely saw. Nanji, I just want to help her. But why can't you understand me? I heard this sentence and almost laughed out loud. He was still asking me why I couldn't understand him. Gu Qing'an. I raised my hand and pulled down that adjusted waistline, the fabric making a slight tearing sound at my fingertips. Do you know what's truly frightening? It's not the white moonlight coming back. It was the moment she came back that you thought I should be mature. She called off the engagement, and you felt sorry for her. She was upset, and you had to comfort her. She said she liked me, and you dared to take down my wedding dress to let her wear it. But what about me? I wasn't feeling well, and you told me to endure it. The company was busy, and you asked me to be understanding. Your mother made things difficult for me, and you advised me not to dwell on it. Now you can't forget your past feelings, and yet you expect me to understand you. I looked at his face, which was gradually turning pale, saying each word deliberately. Gu Qing'an, you don't really not understand marriage. You just think. Anyway, Jiang Nanji will tolerate. Unfortunately, Starting today, that won't be the case. His Adam's apple rolled fiercely, as if he still wanted to say something, but I had already lowered my head and picked up the scissors again. Go out, Southern Branch. I said. Go out. After that day, I and Gu Qing'an officially entered a seesaw battle. He refuses to sign the divorce agreement. He also refuses to publicly cut ties with Qiao Xinyan, but he starts appearing in front of me frequently. Sometimes it's at night holding the fresh milk I used to love and standing downstairs the studio. Sometimes it's noon when the assistant brings me my favorite crab roe dumplings. Sometimes I even sit silently in the car, waiting until I work late into the night, then follow me all the way back to my apartment. Ironically, over the many years, the favor I wanted so much, he never gave generously. By the time I truly gave up, he suddenly learned to do it again. Just late, I didn't take any. The fresh milk was taken by the cleaning lady to take home. The crab roe soup dumplings were divided among the girls in the studio. As for his car, I chose to ignore it. Gu Qing'an had probably never been ignored by me so openly. His expression grew increasingly unpleasant day by day. What really pushed things to the brink was the day before Shigeru Kashiwa's anniversary. At 10 that evening, I was still in the workshop checking samples when Qiao Xinyan suddenly arrived. She was dressed in a white coat, with light makeup, looking more haggard and pitiful than last time. The little girl in the studio wanted to stop her, but she was deterred by a soft word. I just want to talk to Nanji for a bit. I asked everyone to leave and sat in front of the pattern-making table without getting up. Speak. Qiao Xinyan stood opposite me, her eyes slightly red. Nanji, I'm asking you to drop the charges against Xi. The anniversary show is very important to Qing'an, and what you're doing will ruin him. Who ruined him? If it weren't for you hanging on so stubbornly, things wouldn't have gotten this way. I looked up at her and suddenly smiled. You know what? People like you are the most interesting. Even though you reached out to snatch it, you still blame others for not being generous enough at the end. Her face turned pale, and her fingers tightened their grip on the strap of her bag. I didn't want to take anything from you. What are you wearing my wedding dress for then? I just wanted to see if Qing'an still cares about me. I paused. She actually admitted it. Qiao Xinyan was like a broken jar breaking further. The layer of gentleness in her eyes finally cracked open a seam. I'm not like you, Jiang Nanji. I've known since I was young that a man's affection is the cheapest. So I always had to test. I used to test my fiancé before. Now I'm testing Gu Qing'an. I just didn't expect he'd be more reluctant to let me go than I imagined. When she said this, she even smiled. That smile was thin, like a knife. You know what he said at the time? He said, "It's just a wedding dress. Nanji will let it go." My chest tightened suddenly, although I had already heard this from Gu Qing'an's mouth once. Hearing it from Qiao Xinyan again was still like being slapped hard in the face. Turns out she even knew that in Gu Qing'an's heart, I am the one who would let go. So what? I suppressed the surging in my chest, looking at her. You're done testing. Satisfied? Qiao Xinyan was silent for 2 seconds, then suddenly stepped closer. In fact, I came today for one more thing I wanted to tell you. Gu Qing'an never forgot me. He married you because I wasn't there. Now that I'm back, do you think he favors you more? You know that best. I looked at her, slowly putting the scissors down on the table. Qiao Xinyan, do you enjoy this feeling? She froze for a moment. Taking others' things proves you're more loved. I stood up and walked step by step towards her. Then remember this. What you're testing now isn't how valuable you are. How cheap is Gu Qing'an? Her expression changed abruptly. Probably didn't expect me to be so direct. Her lips even trembled. Jiang Nanji, you, still. I stared at her suddenly red eyes. My voice soft but each word struck clearly. Don't always think you're so important. The fact that you can disgust me today isn't because you won. Is because I once truly thought Gu Qing'an was my husband. But that's not the case anymore. If you want to take him, take him. A man who can't even keep his boundaries is only worthy of you. The color drained from Qiao Xinyan's face. She bit her lip hard, tears quickly welling up. The next second, she suddenly raised her hand and slapped herself hard. I didn't even react. Her face instantly showed 5 fingerprints, and tears followed. Meanwhile, the studio door was forcefully pushed open. Gu Qing'an stood at the door, his expression frighteningly grim. He strode in, grabbing Qiao Xinyan's arm, then turned to look at me. his eyes full of anger. Jiang Nanji, have you lost your mind? I looked at Xiao Xinyan's tear-streaked face, almost laughing in disbelief. Did you see me touch her? I only saw her crying like this here with you. Then your eyes are quite blind. Gu Cheng'en's expression grew colder. Xiao Xinyan grabbed his sleeve, crying breathlessly. Cheng'en, don't blame Nanji. It was my fault. I shouldn't have come looking for her. Or said those things that embarrassed her. It's my fault. The more she said, the more unpleasant Gu Cheng'en's expression became. I stood there, suddenly too lazy to even explain. I am too clear about it. The biased person never speaks of evidence. They only talk about who they want to protect at first glance. As expected, Gu Cheng'en's next line was, apologize to Xin Yan. I stared at him, motionless for a long while. Then I asked softly, what did you say? I said, apologize to her. Why? After you just humiliated her and forced her to hit herself. I almost burst out laughing. Turns out Xiao Xinyan was slapping her own face. What echoed in my heart, however, was Gu Cheng'en's perfectly clear words about his partiality. I didn't hit her, and I didn't force her. I looked at him. Believe it or not, it's up to you. With the attitude you're showing now, you can't even say you're sorry. Yes, I can't. I nodded. Not only can't I say I'm sorry, but I also want to tell her one more thing. You're a good actor. Don't perform in my studio next time. It's bad luck. Xiao Xinyan cried even harder. The look in Gu Cheng'en's eyes at me had already become as cold as looking at a stranger. Jiang Nanji, how didn't I notice before that you were so vicious? Vicious. Something pricked my chest. The pain isn't very severe, but it's unusually clear. Turns out, in his mind, my counterattack is called vicious, and they keep stepping on my face, which is considered justified. I nodded and whispered, you're right. So now, take your moonlight and get out of my studio. Gu Cheng'en didn't move. I turned around and pressed the security button directly. Call security. Jiang Nanji. Gu Cheng'en's voice was deep. Are you sure you want to do things so absolutely? It's you who's absolute. I looked at him. Word by word. Tomorrow's anniversary show. I will go personally. By then you'd better see clearly what true absoluteness is. The next evening, the Zhishang anniversary show was held as scheduled. The venue was an art center transformed from an old warehouse on the Bund, with lights, media, and investors all present. Gu Cheng'en stood backstage, in a sharp suit, showing no signs of distress on the surface. If it weren't for the faint greenish hue under his eyes, I would have thought that this marriage breakdown and the infringement controversy had no impact on him at all. When I appeared backstage in a black cocktail dress, everyone was taken aback. Even Gu Cheng'en didn't expect me to come. He immediately came over and lowered his voice. What are you doing here? To watch the show. Jiang Nanji, don't be reckless. Which time have I been reckless that wasn't forced by you? I stepped over him, my gaze falling on the main wedding dress hung on a standalone stand in the center of the backstage. That's not my original wedding dress. It's a commercial version based on my wedding dress. The neckline, waistline, train structure, almost exactly the same. Just replaced the dark embroidery that originally belonged to my mother with machine embossing. It was almost like a beautiful fake. I stood in front of the wedding dress for 2 seconds, then suddenly asked Gu Cheng'en, do you know the biggest difference between a fake and an authentic one? He didn't speak. Authentic once, heartbroken forever. Counterfeit however many times worn. It's just a piece of clothing. Gu Cheng'en's expression changed slightly. South Branch. Let's talk after the performance. Don't wait for it to end. The moment I finished speaking, the large screen in the background suddenly went dark. The next second, all the front screens of the venue switched over. The opening video that was supposed to play the brand story was replaced by an excerpt from a hidden camera video. The first frame. It's the photo of Xiao Xinyan lying on the wedding bed in my wedding dress. A roar went up from the audience. Flashes exploded across the press section. Gu Cheng'en's expression changed instantly. He turned and growled. Who let this through? Cut it out. Right now. It's already late. The second photo is a close-up of the foundation mark on the side of the wedding dress. The third photo is the back view of Gu Cheng'en untying the ribbon for Xiao Xinyan. The fourth photo is the copyright notice. The fifth one. It's a screenshot of the company's ledger for transferring money to Xiao Xinyan, reimbursement, and renting an apartment. The scene blew up completely. Manager Gu, are all of these true? Is Miss Chow a hidden partner of the branch? Or a privately funded recipient of Manager Gu? Is the finale wedding dress suspected of plagiarizing private works? The media's voices came one after another. Gu Cheng'en's face had turned extremely ugly. Just as he was about to rush towards the console, I grabbed the backstage microphone first. Everyone, good evening. When I spoke, the audience became much quieter. All the cameras were focused on me. Let me introduce myself. I am Jiang Nanji, the first-generation designer of the branch, and also the copyright holder of the original design of this evening's main show wedding dress. Standing under the light, I looked at the faces in the audience. Some shocked, some excited. My voice wasn't loud, but it was clearly heard throughout the venue. Originally, it was just a brand show tonight, and I didn't want to bring my personal life into work. Unfortunately, someone put my wedding dress on the trending list, made my work a topic, and turned my marriage into marketing material. In that case, don't blame me for saying it plainly. A reporter in the audience hurriedly asked, Miss Jiang, is that bed photo online real? Yes. A collective gasp went through the room. Holding the microphone, I continued, the wedding dress is mine. The bed is mine too. Without permission, no one should touch them. Unfortunately, some people don't understand boundaries, and some don't understand marriage. So starting today, I officially announced the termination of the exclusive continuation license for all personal haute couture original designs by Etsu. Regarding the infringement related to the finale piece of this anniversary show, I have fully handed it over to my lawyers. Gu Cheng'en abruptly looked up, his voice dropping to an extreme low. Jiang Nanji, do you know what you're saying? I certainly do. I turned to look at him. I also know. The closing act of this show is the stepping stone you took to meet new investors. You bet 3 months. And now you want to secure a round of funding with it. Too bad. A fake is a fake. It can't live up to your ambitions. His face, for the first time, completely lost its color in front of so many people. The backstage fell into a deathly silence. In the next second, Xiao Xinyan suddenly rushed out of the changing room. She was wearing the commercial version of the main wedding dress. Her face as white as a sheet, but her eyes held a fierce determination. Jiang Nanji, how long are you going to make this a scene? Her tears streamed down. I don't have anything left. Why won't you let me go? The camera instantly focused entirely on her. She stood under the light, her white silk dress trailing on the ground, like a bride pushed to the brink. How often do they perform this? If I wasn't the one she was stepping on, I would almost believe it. I looked at her and spoke calmly. Do you really have nothing? You have his partiality, his money, the dream he fulfilled for you with my wedding dress, and the heart that even forgets to divorce first to protect you. Xiao Xinyan, you have nothing except the confidence to snatch others' things. Her breath hitched, and her eyes flickered slightly, but she soon burst into tears again. I never thought of stealing your husband. Is that so? I took a craft paper bag from Qin Sang, pulled out a stack of printed chat logs, and handed them directly to the nearest media lens. Then explain why you said in your chat with friends that men like Gu Cheng'en are the most easy to take advantage of when it comes to this kind of thing. As long as you want it, he will eventually willingly place it in your hands to you. Xiao Xinyan froze entirely. Gu Cheng'en also seemed frozen in place, staring intently at those papers. I continued to flip through them. Here's another one. You say, trying on the wedding dress is just the first step. I'd like to see how far a man can go with favoritism. The next line is even more revealing. You say, if Gu Cheng'en were truly willing to divorce from me, then I wouldn't have come back for nothing. The scene was so quiet you could hear even the sound of breathing. Xiao Xinyan's face turned pale instantly. No, it's not. Are you saying the chat logs are fake? Qin Sang stepped forward, speaking coldly. Sorry. The evidence has been notarized. If you have any objections, take it to court. Gu Cheng'en slowly turned his head, looking at Xiao Xinyan. I knew that look too well. Not love, nor affection. It's the awkwardness that finally becomes clear after the dream shatters. Xiao Xinyan obviously noticed it too, crying as she reached for his arm. Brother Cheng'en, please listen to me explain. I just said it casually at the time. I never thought I would really ruin you. Enough. Gu Cheng'en said only 2 words. His voice wasn't loud, but it was as cold as ice. Xiao Xinyan's fingers trembled, and the last bit of color on his face completely vanished. I watched this belated crash. There was no relief. Only a faint sense of disgust. If she hadn't insisted on showing off by stepping on me, I actually wouldn't have made things look so ugly. But some people are just like that. You step back, and she wants to advance 3 steps. You won't teach her a lesson. She will never know what pain is. The show was ultimately forced to cancel. The investor left the venue that night. Media the next day was full of negative news about the incident. The financing he had always dreamed of securing completely fell through. And I, 3 days after the show ended, publicly launched my independent brand. Name is Sea Mountain. Not on the branch. Not Gu Cheng'an. Not marriage. Just myself. On the day of the brand launch, I didn't invite any celebrity models. Nor did I invite big influencers to appear. I only invited 3 little girls who followed me from the beginning at my studio. And 10 ordinary brides. Some had just gotten married. Some were preparing to start over after a divorce. Some were single mothers. And some were buying their first formal gowns at the age of 40. I set the theme of the launch to 4 characters. Only for oneself. Last but not least, it's not the wedding dress. It's a white long gown made from my old wedding dress. I took off the train, shortened the skirt hem, and replaced the dirty and torn fabric with a piece of new lace I hand-embroidered. On the inside of the waistline, I embroidered a new sentence. Love yourself first. When the stage lights came on, I stood backstage and suddenly heard someone calling my name. I turned around and saw Gu Cheng'an. He stood at the end of the corridor, with dark circles under his eyes and having lost a lot of weight. As if he hadn't slept much in recent days. I instinctively frowned. How did you get in? I want to see you. Here, get out. He didn't move. His gaze settling on the modified gown. His Adam's apple bobbing slightly. You modified the wedding dress. Okay. Why? I looked at him, suddenly finding the question quite absurd. Dirty. Won't you change it or just leave it like this? His face turned pale. It was probably the bluntness of the words dirty that shattered the calm he had been struggling to maintain these days. Nanji. His voice was hoarse. I know I messed up this time. You didn't do right this time. I walked up to him, looking at him from a distance of about a step. You always choose the wrong one. I admit I was foolish about Natsuki's matters. He stared at me, his eyes full of suppressed exhaustion. I thought I just wanted to help her. I thought I could keep the boundaries intact. You don't have it. Yes. He whispered. I don't. Then what's there to say? He was silent for a long time, then asked me, if she doesn't come back, will we always be fine? This question I have also asked myself. If Qiao Xinyan doesn't come back, can we still live decently, live stably, and live until old age like in the past? But later, I understood. The problem has never been whether Qiao Xinyan comes back or not. Instead, as soon as she came back. Gu Cheng'an lost his composure. I won't. I looked at him and gave a calm answer. Because she isn't the problem itself. She just brought your problem to light. Gu Cheng'an, you weren't lured away by her. You've just been leaving the door open for her. His eyelashes trembled slightly, as if struck hard by those words. Is it still time for me to close the door now? It's too late. Why? I've already walked away. After saying that, I turned to leave. Gu Cheng'an suddenly called me from behind. South Branch. I paused, not turning back. That wedding dress. His voice was hoarse. Is it gone forever? I looked at the white dress I had fixed under the light ahead and smiled softly. The wedding dress can't go back. And neither can the person. But Gu Cheng'an, things more valuable than the wedding dress. You've already lost. After the launch event, Jian Shan's pre-order sales exploded. The back-end order almost crashed my studio server. Qin sang laughing beside me like a bandit with a computer in her arms. Boss Jiang. Do you know what karma is a bitch means now? Gu Cheng'an ruined your wedding dress just moments ago. And now you're making him watch you sell out alone. Does that feel good? I lowered my head, signing the confirmation form, my wrist aching badly. But it really felt satisfying. Not because I won against anyone. Instead, I finally pulled myself out of that rotten relationship. The next day, the divorce case officially went to court. Gu Cheng'an didn't fight anymore. He gave up most of the disputed assets and also accepted the claim for the return of expenses related to Qiao Jinan. The judge asked if he agreed to divorce. And he was silent for a long time. So long that the entire court fell silent. Finally, he whispered, I agree. When those 2 words fell, I didn't feel the relief I had imagined. Just very empty. Like a long rain that finally stopped. But the sky hasn't completely cleared yet. When walking out of the court, the sunlight was a bit dazzling. Chin Sang hugged me. Finished. I mumbled. But just as I stepped down, I heard footsteps behind me. Gu Cheng'an followed out. Southern branch. I stopped and turned back to look at him. He was wearing a black suit, standing in the light at the courthouse entrance, looking somewhat gaunt. It must have been too rough these past few days. The vigor in his eyes had long gone, leaving only exhaustion and regret. Can regret, if you see too much. It's just so. Is there something else? I asked. He looked at me as if he wanted to say a lot of things. In the end, he only asked one question. Will you still make wedding dresses in the future? This question made me pause. It's strange. After the divorce, what he asked wasn't whether I hated him, or whether I could give him another chance, but whether I would still make wedding dresses. I thought for a moment, and said, yes. A flash of light seemed to appear in his eyes, but it quickly dimmed again. Good then. I didn't say anything. His Adam's apple bobbed, and he whispered, I always thought wedding dresses were just your work. I later found out that was what you used to believe in marriage. I felt a light jolt in my chest. It was the first time he had ever said something right. It's too late. Unfortunately. Gu Cheng'an. I looked at him and suddenly spoke. You know what I can't forgive you most for? Isn't you making Qiao Xinyan wear my wedding dress? He froze for a moment. You chose so easily between her and me. Easy for you to say. You never thought I'd get hurt. He seemed frozen by those words. His lips moved but he couldn't utter a single word for a long time. I didn't linger. Turned and went down. When I reached the last step, I heard him say something softly behind me. I'm sorry. Sunlight fell on the ground. So bright it was dazzling. I didn't stop walking. Some apologies. Can't bring back a meal, an argument, or even an old romance. But can't bring back a heart that has completely cooled. In the first winter after the divorce, I moved my studio to a new location. The second floor for exhibitions. The first floor for a handmade workshop. And at the very back, I kept a small room for my mother's old sewing machine. On the opening day, there were many people. There were old customers sending flowers, and new ones queuing for measurements. Busy until 9 in the evening. I finally got a chance to catch my breath. Just about to go get a glass of water, when my assistant suddenly ran over holding a box. Jijia. Someone sent this to the door, saying it must be given to you personally. I frowned as I took it. The box was very light. Upon opening it, I found an old silver brooch inside. It was the one I wore on my wedding day, pinned to the lining of my dress. I had lost it a long time ago and had never found it. A note was pressed under the box. The handwriting was very familiar. It fell into the bed scene that day. Now I give it back to you. Gu Cheng'an. I stared at the brooch for a long time. Finally tore the note into pieces, and put the brooch back into the drawer. The assistant next to me was so chatty her eyes were sparkling. Who is this? Sister Ji. Ex-husband. She immediately shut her mouth, not daring to breathe. But I smiled. What's to fear? Ex-husband doesn't bite. She asked softly. Are you still upset? I pushed the drawer shut and tucked in the cuffs of my sleeves. Yes, I was. Not now. That night after closing, I stayed alone in the workshop. Turning on the lights very bright, laid out on the table was a new design draft. It was a very simple white gown. No train. No veil. Only very clean shoulder and waist lines. I was looking at that picture when I suddenly remembered many things. I remembered my mom's fine wrinkles at the corners of her eyes as she sewed the last stitch for me under the light. I remembered the first time I wore my wedding dress and stood before the mirror, thinking I was really about to walk into happiness. I also remembered the day I pushed open the master bedroom door, when Qiao Xinyan was wearing my wedding dress lying on my bed, and Gu Cheng'an stood beside her, saying with a sense of natural right, it's just a wedding dress. A woman truly comes to her senses not from never being hurt. It is after being hurt that she finally knows what is worth it and what isn't. Wedding dresses are certainly precious. But more precious than wedding dresses is the self who is willing to entrust an L. So deserves to be entrusted. Later, Jian Shan became better and better at what he did. In the spring of the second year, I accepted a special order. The customer was a 38-year-old woman, divorced, with a 7-year-old daughter. She wanted to make a white dress for herself. Not for a wedding. Just wanted to take a set of photos with her daughter on her birthday. She sat opposite me, a little uneasy, asking, "Teacher Jiang, for someone in my situation, is it still suitable to wear white?" I looked at her and suddenly remembered myself from the past. I recalled those moments of being humiliated, denied, and forced to act mature. I smiled and picked up the tape measure. Walking over. "It fits. Who says white can only be worn for marriage?" She paused, her eyes suddenly turning red. After measuring the dimensions, she stood at the door with her daughter, thanking me. The little girl looked up at me and asked in a soft voice, "Auntie, will you get married again in the future?" I crouched down, straightened the crooked hair clip for her, and smiled, saying, "Maybe, if I meet someone worth it." "What if you don't?" I looked at her bright black eyes and whispered, "That's also good, because one person can also live as a gift." The little girl nodded, seemingly understanding but not fully. Her mother, however, was beside her and suddenly began to cry. After seeing them off, I stood at the glass door, looking at the spring outside, and for a moment, I was a bit dazed. It turns out there really can be such a day. When I think of marriage again, it's no longer pain, no longer hatred, nor that empty feeling as if someone had torn a piece out of my chest. Only peace remains. After a few more months, Qin Sang suddenly sent me a photo. The photo was taken at a cocktail party. Gu Cheng'an was sitting in the corner, drinking alone, still in a neat suit. But his expression was extremely indifferent. Her caption had only one sentence. "I heard he cut all projects related to Qiao Jinan, and sold half of the shares on a branch as well." I glanced and replied with an "Oh." Qin Sang quickly called over voice chat. "Just an "Oh. What then? Wouldn't you like to know more? Like how much he regrets it now, how miserable he is, how much he misses you." I was holding scissors to mend a piece of thin gauze, my voice flat. Sang. The most boring part of the crematorium is when the fire really starts. The person is already not inside anymore. She was silent for 2 seconds on the other end, then laughed and cursed. "Your mouth is getting better and better at killing people." I laughed too. Yes. Before, I didn't dare to speak harshly, always afraid of hurting feelings. Afraid of being too sharp. Afraid of tearing life apart. Later, I realized that what truly tears life apart is never a woman's clarity. It is a man's greed. When autumn arrived, I received a call from a stranger number. It was very quiet, and after a few seconds of silence, a familiar voice came through. "South Branch. It's me." My hand movement paused for a moment. "Something wrong?" "My mom is hospitalized." Gu Cheng'an's voice was slightly hoarse. "She wants to see you." I looked at the needle and thread in my hand for a while, then spoke faintly. "What do you want to see me for?" She said, "She wanted to apologize to you." I suddenly remembered that day when I was packing my suitcase to leave, and Chen Yufeng standing at the door saying, "You're a wedding dressmaker. If you hadn't married Cheng'an, could you have achieved this today?" Some words seem light when spoken, but they can pierce deeply into a person's heart and linger for a long time. "Gu Cheng'an." I lowered my head and threaded the needle through, tying a very steady knot. "If your mother really wanted to apologize, she should have said it before I left. Now, it's unnecessary." Southern Branch. "Don't call like this again in the future." I hung up the phone and put the phone aside. A breeze came through the window, carrying a faint scent of osmanthus. I suddenly remembered that autumn of the year I got married. Gu Cheng'an standing at the studio door waiting for me to come home from work, holding a large bunch of white campanulas in his arms, smiling and saying, "Jiang Nanji. I will give you flowers every autumn from now on." Later, whether I sent them or not, I've long forgotten. People are always like this. When the real pain hits, you remember it very clearly. It doesn't hurt anymore. Almost unable to recognize what was sweet before, I finished sewing the last stitch of that new fabric, turned it to the back, and cut off the excess thread ends. The stitches are very close, very stable, like a heart finally sewn together. Before closing that night, the assistant leaned over and asked softly, "Aunt Ji, can I see the brooch in your drawer? It's so pretty." I pulled the drawer open and took it out for her. She held it in her hands and looked at it for a long time, then suddenly let out a "huh." "Behind this there are characters." I froze, took it, and turned to the back. On the back of the silver needle, A line of almost invisible small characters was engraved extremely finely. "It's my mother's handwriting. To the one who was firmly chosen." I stared at those words, and my eyes immediately grew warm. It turns out my mom had hidden the answer in the wedding dress. And also in the brooch. But back then, I was so focused on the idea that love could overcome everything that I didn't see it. It's not too late to see it now. I put the brooch back in the box and gently closed it. The assistant next to me asked, "Sister Ji, what does this sentence mean?" I smiled and my voice was very soft. "It means that things like wedding dresses shouldn't be worn for half-baked love." She nodded, as if understanding but not really. I looked at my shadow in the glass window. Light fell on me, clean and bright. No one was beside me. Nor did anyone come to make choices for me. I felt for the first time that I was even more beautiful than on my wedding day. Later, whenever someone mentioned Gu Cheng'an, they always liked to say one thing: "Too bad. What a great couple they were back then." I heard it. But I just smiled faintly. Only I know. It's no loss. Because what's truly regrettable has never been a broken marriage, but a woman who is clearly betrayed, yet still lies to herself, saying, "Never mind." Fortunately, I didn't count. Luckily, I personally tore open the stained wedding dress and turned it into another piece of clothing that suits me better. Also luckily, I finally learned. The best bride in the world is not the one wearing a wedding dress waiting for someone to love her. She is the one who will stand in the light even if no one comes. Like a complete answer.